Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. This should be my final video of today, as the other video I posted today was this Iron Man VR video and your Friday edition of Marvel Contest of Champions news. And if you want to talk to me about some of the topics raised in this video, go across to the Twitch channel because I'll be live streaming from 2000 hours GMT, so that's 8 PM UK time, over on twitch.tv/RichTheMan live. Okay, well let's get it into today's very kind of spicy extra news. Kabam have given out a little kind of breakdown of what they plan to do for the next few months, including that write-up for that presentation that I was looking forward to talking about, which is all about AQ matters. So this is what we're going to deep dive. All this information should be available on the forums for you to check out, but the main thing to really start things off is the, well, sort of apology, sort of not apology, sort of like, we understand, basically saying everybody obviously is given feedback, it is all constructive, but as well Kabam need to make further waves in order to make improvements. Initially saying that, look, we've got some stuff that we've been working on for a little while, so that's why it's been brought to the front of the queue in order to deliver out to the community. Kabam also want to remind players that the content contained here is not a solution to all the concerns that the community has raised and is a representative of what we've been able to pivot on right now and can be introduced in the next 1 to 3 months. There may be more added in the next 1 to 3 months, but we wanted to show you all that we have planned right now. Obviously this is incredibly good news, but at the same time it still puts us into the unsettling domain of going, okay, well, there's more stuff that needs to be done down the line. What other things will Kabam look into based on that feedback and the extent of what's there? Like, for example, my issue with the gating system of 6.2. Will this be in a long list of stuff when it comes to another announcement, which theoretically they'll have to do? This information and this stuff that is going to be covered is going to be very much interim, and as well what Kabam as a developer have been working on for a little while. So some of the stuff may be or may not tick the boxes of you watching this video right now. If I can look at this situation with an analogy, it's basically like we're at sea. So basically we're a community in a ship at sea. The ship is made of metal. There is a hole in the side of the ship. Rather than putting people down there to weld it because we're in the middle of a voyage, well, instead what we've done is we've tried to kind of put something like paper in it. It's not going to hold for any length of time, but still it's a case that when we make port, we're going to have to make it true and make sure that we weld over the top of it. So it's an answer in the interim, but there's more that needs to be done. The second big revelation from this is that Kabam note that they may have moved too fast. And I think that's the same thing with a lot of players, wondering why they did decide to go with Act 7 or Book 2, Act 1 so quickly, especially with the end of Act 6 and Act 6.4 being so quick, and the mistakes that were made in that one to start making more mistakes from just pumping out a new act. Seem to be very, very silly, regardless of your skill for the game and as well your roster and whether you're well or not. It did seem to be a very ill-advised thing to just get in with it, something they admit to and something they're going to move on with and hopefully rectify. And funnily enough, here is an artist's rendition of what it was like doing Act 1 of Book 2. Yes, very apt. And for me personally, I have no great motivation to doing a lot of Act 6. I've slowly been getting the champions for the last year that actually make this a little bit more bearable. But bearable from a sense of doing 10 paths is not exactly exciting. So whatever could be done with this in the future would be great, because this is boring as hell. There is also good news on the horizon when it comes to back issues 5, Blood and Venom. I'm really surprised as to why this was going to be left till September. But there you go, this is just how it rolls. Saying back issues 5 has now been moved up to the release in August. This may be further out than some may have hoped for, but we are only able to move this forward in our schedule after we push back the release of Book 2 Act 1. Back issues are a fan favourite, and we know our summoners enjoy the creativity and problem solving that they bring and the value they can bring to some of your lesser used champions. We want to bring you more of that content in the future, but don't have anything concrete to share at this time. For most players that are able to do this, variants have been the staple point of something to actually look forward to. Where kind of like Act 6 has been like very hit and miss, and more miss than it's been hit, looking forward to this has been the best part of Marvel Contest of Champions. So to kind of have this not attitude, but this kind of thought process is to go, right, well, we're going to focus on the story mode as opposed to stuff like this, and as well the core things that you as players need to see addressed, like your alliance quests, your alliance wars, not to mention the quality of life stuff, arena. Obviously we've had incursions and that's great, but that's one thing of like many things that are part of the core fundamentals that make this game enjoyable for so many players. So it's great to know that now we can see a bit of a push towards this, but obviously that's a long amount of time. What are we talking, like December time of last year to then have to wait, what is it, like 9+ months? About 9 months until like the next variant, where most of these were being kicked out every like, I don't know, 3 months. At most it was 6 months. So yeah, it's good to see that focus change, because a lot of players want positivity in their endgame grind and don't really want to invest too much with this kind of disappointment with Act 6, which, let's face it, that's what they go to rather than doing Abyss of Legends for anything more than a completion standpoint, unless they had the champions for it, and as well a lot of units. Okay, so now we're going to talk about something when it comes to Alliance quest improvements. Saying here in June we'll be introducing a new Alliance ticket system that allows Alliance leadership to start any map that they would like, and instead of relying on Alliance Treasury, Alliance members will use Alliance tickets that they can purchase with the resources of their choice. And the Alliance tickets are broken down as follows. So this starts June 10th. I think the other thing's in July, but in any case, whatever. The fact is there will be a ticket for every Alliance person. If you can't afford a ticket, then I think you go without. So basically it says here, the Alliance ticket price for entry is 15 tickets for map 6, 30 tickets for map 7, map 5 joins the roster of free maps. That means no cost for anybody to run maps 1 to 5. That's incredibly good news, and tickets are your own individual account and cannot be used to grant entry for anybody else, which is slightly a bit of an issue if you all can't afford it, but I'm sure there's going to be more to this. And the major reason for this, as even says here, is give more autonomy over the resources you use to enter Alliance quests, reduce the cost of during Alliance quest maps, and put a stop to fraudulent and illicit activities like resource loaders. This is something that ILAC Skills has been pointing out for a little while. I think he did a video on this very recently on the subject. So maybe they listened and they decided to deal with this. Maybe they've been working on it for a while. Who really knows? But it's good to see that they're trying to stamp out a lot of the fraudulent and the terrible activity that goes on in the background that kind of makes an unfair game. Okay, so this I absolutely love. I think it is good because for me personally, I don't like spending my battle chips. I love popping them arena crystals and seeing if I can get either units, getting myself some extra gold if I desperately need it, and as well switch around what it is that I really want and when I want to spend. Especially if you consider the fact that most people have that system in alliances where they go, okay, could somebody do my loyalty this week? Okay, could somebody do my gold this week because I'm low? I don't want to spend any of that, so could I do the units? Like, instead of that being the case where you're kind of like bartering with your fellow alliance mate, you're doing what you can do and saying, right, I've got more resource in X, Y, or Z. I'm going to use Y instead of Z this week. That, I think, is pretty cool. But it depends on the cost breakdown. That will be the key thing as well about how much these tickets are going to cost. Now, what about all that extra stuff in the treasury? Well, it's actually going back to you. As you can see here, it looks like you will get back the donations of 5 months worth. So that is going to be positive for you receiving back what you might have put in. So those resources can be spent elsewhere, which is the biggest thing about, you know, the labor of kind of grind and obviously what you donate to the treasury, having, I'd say, a little bit, not extensively, a little bit of quality of life, having those battle chips that you work so hardly in arena, that gold that you've grinded from events, the loyalty that you've grinded out from Alliance Wars is going to stay with you. So that is going to be good. And as well, more opportunity to spend that wherever you might see fit in the game. So that's really, really positive. Also, it looks like Kabam will get you covered for 2 series of Alliance Quest, going from May 25th to June 7th with ticket systems. So that's good. That's fantastic. It's good to know that there's going to be like a little bit of a reprieve session. And as well, the spend. Okay, this is when this thing could get a little bit kind of dicey on the spend. So here we go. Tickets are sold on a scaling cost, similar to items in the Glory store. The more you purchase with just one resource, the more that it will cost. Okay, so here's where it gets a little bit stinky. Using a variety of resources will be the most cost-effective way to use Alliance tickets. For example, if you purchase 150 Alliance tickets, 1 week of Map 7 and spread them out equally between Gold, Battle Chips and Loyalty, 50 each, they would cost 366,576, 337,000 Loyalty and 48,000 Battle Chips. Oh, okay. I mean, that's still a bit expensive, but I don't know. Anyway, there is a comparison here, say to compare, and please do not do this unless you have a lot of one resource. If you purchase these same 150 tickets with only gold, it would cost 1,300,000. Oh dear Lord. And to clarify the dates in pink, May 22nd, which is today, closed donations to Alliance Treasury, May 25th to June 7th, 2 weeks of free Alliance Quest. June 3rd, summoners will receive an Alliance ticket refund. June 10th, Alliance tickets are usable for Alliance Quest Map 6 and 7. Map 5 is permanently free. So yeah, what is everyone's thoughts on this whole kind of ticketing system? Obviously, it's got the good intentions to sort out the problems of the fraudulent activity, but as well, could it really cause a bit of a just friction when it comes to balancing off resources of what you spend? And does it seem like the rent is too damn high still when it comes to how much you need to spend in order to access the higher tier stuff, like your Map 7s and Map 6s? You know, what are your thoughts on this? Put it in the comment section down below. Next thing on the chopping block is Alliance Wars. Alliance Wars is just a terrible, terrible game mode and does dramatically need to change. However, though, this is to smooth things over in the interim and basically say that as of Season 19, things are definitely going to change. Basically saying about defense tactics and as well looking at other things when it comes to changing the game mode. Saying not only is the Grandmaster bringing new defense tactics into the mix, oh god, but it says under his rules. Attackers will also gain a bonus from the defense tactic that is chosen when it positively affects a defender. For example, a flow control attackers will gain a bonus against control defenders. Well, we'll also continue to make updates to existing tactics that prove to be more punishing than others. Season 19 will also bring more improvements to matchmaking so that mode remains competitive but fair. Look out for more information Season 19 for Alliance Wars in late June. Now, I know a lot of you know my opinions on Alliance Wars and as well as Alliance Quest. Obviously, with Alliance Wars, I do feel that it's a very tired game mode and as well has been a just subject of just unfairness, collusion, exploitation and other things that just make the game mode just a sour taste in the mouth for myself and as well many others. And the fact is, doing this stuff doesn't again show a dramatic change. The game mode still remains the same as Alliance Quest remains the same. Some people like that regularity and everything remaining the same. For me personally, seeing these two types of game modes being exactly the same for such a long time, I do feel that they need to be completely overhauled, in some cases removed, and then something being brought in that's new. There was the idea of these raid tickets, but I guess this is the thing that these Alliance Quest tickets are actually what that game mode or kind of like what's associated with that particular mode with Alliance Quest. So the idea of raiding, the idea of some sort of different structured based event that's Alliance based participation, whether it be a competitive line with Alliance Wars and Alliance Quest remains the same. So for me, I wait with bated breath that we could indeed see something in the future. But for the time being, again, it's another thing to smooth over the cracks of these events. So we'll wait to see what happens at the end of June for this. Next up, we've got Alliance Leadership Tools. This is a very important thing as well. We'll take out a lot of stress from new people joining alliances and as well restructuring defensive champions and also like battle groups and battle group assignment. This is very important for the community, and as well it's going to be very important to take the stress away from officers. So I do rate this for those that have to kind of worry about people in so many different ways, from a point of like, okay, so this is placed here, this is placed there. It's just a lot more simple. So I'm looking forward to seeing this from a visual standpoint, because at the moment it's just obviously on paper, so we need to see the visual side of things. Also, it looks like Kabam are updating the Abyss of Legends. The Abyss of Legends from a point of rewards. Now, as a lot of people know, Abyss of Legends is meant to be like the, as even Kabam say, apex of Everest content. So, yeah, should it be rewarded more than it is? Well, that's the thing. Where we're kind of like looking at the, I don't know if people overly said that the Abyss of Legends was just rewarded poorly or well. It seems that Kabam feel that it wasn't rewarded well enough. So that's the thing of maybe going like for those that have completed 100% exploration, that they indeed get Abyss of Legends improved rewards. And that is good. I'm sure people will see that very, very soon. And the final thing Kabam have to say is an update to the roadmap. We mentioned earlier that we wanted to give you all a roadmap of our priorities, projects and visions for the future of the contest. This is still a plan, but now we're taking some more time to ensure that our current map addresses the concerns and priorities that you've all brought lately. As a diverse group of summoners, you all have a variety of different priorities and concerns, many of which contradict those of another summoner. Making positive change for the future of the game that is good for players will take time. These are what we are able to do in the short term. We plan to having more updates for you in all the near future. We'll have more information on an update roadmap and more changes we plan to make in the medium and long term for you in early June. Oh, and also just before I forget, this is the ticketing system. There'll probably be a link to all of this stuff from the forum post. And as you can see here, this is how it breaks down from the point of purchasing the tickets. Obviously, it scales nicely, not so nicely. Unit price seems to remain the same, which is good, especially because a lot of people will be putting their hard-earned units into the spend of it. But it does mount up quite a bit from the purpose of a spend. Now, just before I get into my final thoughts, I've probably put pinned comments. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but I will just going to keep my final points very, very clear. So number one, just to kind of point out that this is stuff that has been in the works for a while. So even as Kabam admit to, this does not sort out a lot of the issues from the general feedback that was put up there. And because, yes, I do agree that it was incredibly diverse with players' problems. It wasn't just about what Seaton had as an issue in his video he made. There was a lot of things being brought to the table. My problems, your problems watching this video right now are stuff that we need to have addressed. And especially looking at where players are, which, let's face it, and you will all be honest with this, Kabam have obviously just not really taken into consideration for a best part of a year, maybe even more than that. But that's the thing. Whatever those problems were, and are ongoing, they need to be kind of filtered in such a way that Kabam can keep their thumb on the pulse when it comes to what is the thoughts behind the player base in different areas of progression. To say that we had DNA 3000 on the podcast on Sunday and making that point to say, look, in all theory, in all seriousness, and in theory, that you will need 8 stars to go into Act 1 of Book 2 is something that, look, if you're a mid-range player, you're not able to make that progression. So therefore, you sucking out the fun of this game. So yes, it's a game for skilled-based people, and at the same time, RNG giving you the champions to get you to that content. But with stuff like variants being so much of a thing to look forward to, that kind of eliminate that factor of RNG, because you could have a 5-star, maybe a 4-star, maybe even like a 6-star of a completely whack champion that ends up being like a complete gold tier in that particular mode. It shines more light of that being good permanent content and future progression and future thought than some of the stuff that's being produced with Act 6. Either way, I've talked a bit too much on the stuff that's at large. I'm happy about a few things, not so happy about the fact that Alliance Quest and Alliance Wars have no kind of like future idea with it, with getting rid of them and doing something completely new, and just putting something brand new, fresh into the game, like they did with it, dungeons turning into incursions. But look, that's something that's maybe my own want and desire, and obviously that might differ from you watching this video. So the fact is, let's see what they've got to offer in June. It's a good step, but more needs to be done. Thoughts on this in the comment section, and make sure to come across to the stream tonight at 2000 hours GMT. We'll play some MCOC first and foremost, then we're going to play some Call of Duty Warzone. Hope to see you there, and have a lovely weekend.